So this is the breaking news event that you and I are watching in real time, live, this footage coming to us from Tel Aviv. We're going to continue to get more information. I think we have our, okay, just getting some new information into my ear, and I only want to bring you what we can confirm and what's accurate. So once again, you're looking at live images coming to us from Tel Aviv tonight after U.S. intelligence warned that there would be an imminent attack from Iran toward the Israeli state. We just watched as we saw what appeared to be the Iron Dome defense system intercept incoming missiles. Let's try and listen in and see what else we can learn. So we no longer hear the interceptions of missiles. We don't hear explosions. We do not hear the sirens anymore, but we will continue to listen in to what's happening in Tel Aviv. It's now 7:47 in the evening. We want to bring in CBS News White House reporter Willie James Inman for more on this. We know that the president had already met with the vice president and the security team regarding what are escalating tensions in this part of the world. What can you tell us?
Yeah, that's right, Errol. The president, the vice president convening with their national security team here at the White House this morning. And this follows that warning from the United States from a senior White House official saying that there were indications that Iran was preparing an imminent missile attack on Israel. But one important line I want to point out to our viewers at home in that statement from a senior White House official, they say a direct military attack from Iran against Israel will carry severe consequences for Iran. It's unclear how the United States will respond as of yet, but we do know there are several assets within the region that could potentially respond to this barrage of rockets that we have seen on our screens headed towards Israel. Now, it's also important to point out that behind the scenes, diplomacy has been going on to de-escalate these tensions in the region, with Israel fighting against Hezbollah. Also, you have the situation in Gaza as well, with Israel fighting Hamas. So far, those efforts really haven't come to fruition. We haven't seen that 21-day ceasefire deal that the president and other world leaders wanted the Israelis to essentially come to terms with Hezbollah. That hasn't happened yet. And you saw this escalation tonight with Iran sending those missiles to Israel. According to the IDF, we haven't received a response from the White House. We have reached out to them to see if they have a response to this latest rocket attack, and we'll let you know once we hear it, Errol.
And what's interesting, Willie, is that about 14 hours ago, Secretary of Defense Austin did release a statement in which he spoke about having a conversation with Israel's defense minister, making it clear, I'm reading from this statement, that the U.S. supports Israel's right to defend itself. And though he added that there's a necessity of dismantling attack infrastructure along Israel's border with Lebanon, he goes on to say that civilians must be allowed to return safely on both sides of the Israeli-Lebanese border. Now that we've witnessed, again, it's just happened, so I'm saying it's what appears to be these Iranian ballistic missiles coming into Tel Aviv, and it appears to be the Iron Dome intercepting them. We can hear sirens now from emergency services on the ground. Now that this has happened, what must the U.S. do or say to bring peace to the region? And we're seeing more what appear to be artillery moving now.
Well, one of the things that you can almost anticipate will happen is that Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Biden could potentially speak. We did hear the president talk earlier this weekend, or I should say a couple of days ago, and said that he will be talking to Prime Minister Netanyahu. No word yet on whether or not that call happened, but I anticipate behind the scenes here at the White House and at the State Department, at the Pentagon, the officials are scrambling to try to not only respond to this incident, but also come up with some type of plan, some type of response. As the official mentioned, that the United States will respond to this. Remember last time around when Iran sent these missiles and drones to Israel, not only was it the Israeli military that responded with its Iron Dome defense system, the United States and partners in the region responded as well, shooting down some of those oncoming missiles and drones as well. So with those assets in the region, that's perhaps one thing that the United States can do. There, of course, can be more sanctions. That's been a response from the United States oftentimes when we see these types of escalations happen. But diplomacy is one of those things that the Biden administration, the president, the vice president, and others talk about in terms of getting both sides to lay down their arms so those people, as you mentioned, can return to their homes.
I just want to reset for our viewers. I'm Errol Barnett at the CBS Broadcast Center in New York. Willie James Inman is at the White House as we bring you the latest information from Tel Aviv, where we're watching in real time what appear to be ballistic missiles being fired from Iran into the Israeli state. That is according to the IDF. And the fireworks you're witnessing appear to be Israel's defense, the Iron Dome system trying to intercept some of that incoming artillery from Iran. This as a response to Israel's efforts to protect its northern border from Hezbollah militants and incoming rockets there. Israel saying it is launching a limited ground operation in Lebanon in order to protect its citizens in northern Israel. I want to also now share this new information. The Secretary of State, Willie, we were just talking about a potential diplomatic resolution to this. Secretary of State Antony Blinken moments ago was set to deliver remarks at the International Counter-Ransomware Initiative Summit. This is in Arlington, Virginia. Our teams are reporting that he has canceled this public appearance amid this attack. The State Department saying a briefing now delayed as U.S. intelligence and military teams recalculate what to do next. Willie, this is a dangerous moment, not just for politics and for regional stability, but for people living in Tel Aviv right now.
Yeah, it certainly is, Errol, and I can only imagine what it's like for the people living there and hearing those sirens go off, seeing those rockets up in the sky and seeing the Iron Dome defense system work the way it's supposed to, the way it's designed to. I'll also note early on when this happened in April, some 99% of those projectiles, those drones, those missiles that were sent from the Iranians to attack Israel were shot down. Now, it's not 100% proof type system, but it does work pretty well. I'll also note with the president's schedule as well, Errol, we were talking about the Secretary of State. He has canceled a meeting. The president had a meeting scheduled with some Jewish leaders. That meeting has been scuttled. I anticipate the president perhaps meeting with his national security team. We are set to see the president later today when he receives a briefing on the damage and devastation of Hurricane Helene. So two disasters, essentially, that the president has to handle, one on the domestic front and one on the diplomatic front with this response from Iran after the Israelis have really just attacked Hezbollah, have went in with their covert operatives and really done quite some damage to that organization in response to defending their citizens there along the Lebanese and Israeli border, Errol.
Inman reporting from the White House for us. And on that point, we understand President Biden did convene a meeting with his vice president and his national security team earlier to discuss what was an imminent Iranian plan to launch significant ballistic missiles into Israel. We want to bring in CBS News contributor Robert Berger. He's in the country. He's in Jerusalem. I'm wondering if you heard sirens where you are. We've been watching what's happening in Tel Aviv. Robert, bring us the latest.
Yes, also here in Jerusalem over the past 10 minutes or so, we've seen incoming, it's probably shrapnel. It looks like orange shooting stars, and the sirens have been going off. They went off twice. And we've also been hearing booms here in Jerusalem. As I say, I think this is shrapnel. Also, the Army spokesman indicated that that might be the case. Shrapnel from intercepted missiles, but this attack well underway. The situation here very tense.
Explain to me more why you think the IDF is saying it's incoming shrapnel. Is that because the so-called Iron Dome system is working and these perceived ballistic missiles are being shot down and broken apart? Help us understand that.
Right. Apparently, I have to be careful about what we say. We don't know if maybe some of the missiles are getting in, but my impression was that what I saw, the orange shooting stars, if you will, was probably shrapnel from missiles that have been intercepted. And this is the Arrow anti-missile system, because apparently we're talking about ballistic missiles, those missiles that can carry hundreds of pounds of warheads. And Israel's missile defense is, of course, very good. We'll have to wait and see now. If the attack is apparently ongoing, and we'll have to see if any of these missiles get in. As I say, I heard booms. I don't have any reports of injuries or damage at this time.
All of this, Robert, unfolding in approximately the past 10 to 15 minutes. So we too sit and wait for confirmation of exactly what was incoming and if there have been any injuries. The IDF, at the very least, confirming that they are shooting down incoming projectiles. Outside of this, though, beyond the fear of people who are living where these missiles are incoming, there is an effort by the U.S. to reach some kind of diplomatic solution with Hamas, with Hezbollah, in the region. How does this change that, if at all? Does it increase the importance to get to some kind of peaceful solution?
Well, I think this escalates the situation really in a very serious way. There was broad speculation that Iran wasn't going to do this, but now that it has, it puts the onus on Israel to retaliate. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said just yesterday, and also at the UN General Assembly a few days ago, that, and you can hear the sirens now. I don't know if that's coming through, but another round of sirens. Netanyahu said that if Iran attacks Israel, Israel will attack Iran. And that's the big question, if they will and how they will do that.
U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin did release a statement some 14 hours ago where he underscored the importance of the United States helping Israel defend itself, but also noted that there needs to be a diplomatic resolution required to help civilians safely return to their homes on both sides of the border. That he's referencing the conflict with Lebanon. Robert Berger is in Jerusalem hearing sirens. We've been watching footage from Tel Aviv, witnessing incoming missiles get intercepted. In our last few seconds with you, Robert, tell us what we can expect to happen next.
Well, the attack is ongoing. So right now, Israel is, I think, just is bracing itself and trying to intercept these incoming missiles. We'll have to see how long the attack goes on. And then the big question, how is Israel going to retaliate? Will it retaliate directly against Iran and send the regions toward a major regional war?
A live update there from our Robert Berger in Jerusalem as we watch live what appear to be Iranian ballistic missiles heading toward Tel Aviv and being intercepted. CBS News 24/7 will continue gathering all the information on this and bring it to you live. Our special coverage of this breaking news event continues with my colleague Reed Cowan in San Francisco.